Ever wonder why we humans constantly flex about being the smartest species on the planet? We build spaceships to look for aliens, we drop rovers on Mars to take selfies with rocks, and now we have AI doing literally everything for us, from writing corporate emails to painting weird art. Pretty cool, right? But hold your horses. Calm down. Because if you actually flip through the black pages of human history, history has shown that every single time someone genuinely smart stepped up and handed humanity a world-changing invention, the crowd's immediate, collective reaction was to panic, throw rocks, and call it witchcraft. Or they just went, "Hey, look, a crazy person trying to destroy society. Get him!" Seriously, our species has a pathologically hilarious fear of change. Welcome to Smartass Curly. Today, we are dissecting the top 10 greatest inventions that people absolutely hated in the past. Let's go. Let's kick things off at number 10. Something you probably have in your backpack right now, the umbrella. Travel back to 18th century London. A gloomy town covered in fog, horse poop, and endless rain. A guy named Jonas Hanway comes back from France, holding this weird fabric shield over his head, just casually walking down the street. Did the British people praise him for being stylish? Absolute freaking lie not. They started booing him, swearing at him, and literally throwing rocks and mud at his face. Why? Because their logic was supreme. They believed rain was God's holy way of cleansing the earth. Therefore, holding an umbrella meant you were literally disrespecting God. You were playing cheat against nature, but the real tea. The angry mob was heavily funded by local horse carriage drivers.
They were terrified that if people started walking with umbrellas under the rain, no one would pay for a carriage ride. Using God to protect your wallet? Timeless classic.
Moving on to number 9, the bicycle. A magnificent machine that allowed humans to travel freely using nothing but pure leg power. But as soon as it became popular in the 19th century, doctors and moral experts collectively lost their minds. Major newspapers started warning people about a terrifying disease called bicycle face. They claimed that if women rode bicycles, their faces would become permanently deformed, eyes popping out, jaws clenched tight just to balance. Like, how much creative imagination does it take to invent that kind of medical nonsense? Worse, they labeled the bicycle as a weapon of mass immorality. They were terrified that the constant straddling and leg movement would trigger sinful, lustful desires in women. And the biggest threat, bicycles allowed girls to escape their family's control and just ride away to have wild fun. Heavens forbid. At number 8, we have the automobile, the ultimate symbol of modern transportation. In the late 19th century, when the first cars rolled onto the streets, people didn't say, "Wow, so convenient."
No, they panicked.
They called a mechanical demon that spits fire and breeds death. The British government got so terrified they passed one of the dumbest laws in history, the Red Flag Act of 1865. Get ready, because this law proves that humanity's historical stubbornness has no limits. The law stated, every time a car travels on a public road, there must be a pedestrian walking 60 meters ahead of the car. And this person had to constantly wave a massive red flag to warn citizens, capping the car's speed at a whopping 2 miles per hour. Truly, a mastermind move. Landing at number 7, Johannes Gutenberg's printing press in the 15th century, the machine that cured mass ignorance before the printing press. If you wanted a book, monks had to sit down and copy every single letter by hand for a whole year. Books were so ridiculously rare that only the ultra-rich, aristocrats, and the church could ever lay a finger on them. But when Gutenberg started cranking out thousands of books in just days, European elites absolutely lost their composure. They snobbishly argued, printed books are a vulgar, cheap scam. They ruined the sacred art of handwriting. But what was the real fear hiding in their dark, privileged hearts? If poor people could read books, they would start thinking. And once they start thinking, they stop being submissive slaves. To the ruling class back then, public knowledge was a disease threatening their throne. Crashing into number 6. Coffee. The black liquid literally running the entire global economy and saving corporate souls every morning. In the 16th century, when coffee arrived in Europe from the Arab world, Italian priests immediately labeled it the drink of Satan. They claimed this bitter, dark potion that kept people awake at night was pure black magic designed to trap Christian souls. But the peak of stupidity happened in England in 1674 when a massive anti-coffee campaign was launched by a women's petition. Their manifesto literally stated that coffee made men as talkative as women, lazy, and completely useless at home. And even worse, they claimed it caused infertility, turning English husbands into unfruitful, barren deserts. Ladies and gentlemen, the original coffee haters. At number 5, we have Alexander Graham Bell's telephone in 1876, when Bell tried to sell his telephone patent to Western Union, the absolute monopoly superpower of telegraphs at the time. The committee literally laughed in his face and said, "What use could this company make of an electrical toy? Why would anyone want to hear a raspy, distorted voice through an iron wire? Talk about a billion-dollar mistake." But wait, it gets dumber. Regular American citizens flat out refused to let workers install telephone lines near their houses. Why? Because they were dead certain that lightning bolts would travel down the wire and explode into their living rooms. Or worse, that evil spirits and demons would use the lines to whisper curses directly into their ears at midnight. Top tier imagination. Standing bright at number 4, Thomas Edison's incandescent light bulb. The invention that saved us from 1,000 years of darkness. When Edison finally illuminated his laboratory, British journalists and experts immediately started roasting him in the press. They called electric light a total insult to human vision and swore it would cause instant, permanent blindness. Not only that, they told people it would cause chronic migraines and specifically make women's hair fall out completely. Por Thomas. People got so paranoid that when they went to bed, they covered the light bulbs with thick black cloth. They were genuinely terrified that electric currents would leak into the air and poison their blood while they slept. Imagine their reaction if they saw us staring at smartphones for 14 hours a day. Flying into number 3, the very first eyeglasses invented in 13th century Italy. You'd think half-blind people back then would weep with joy, right? Nope. Medieval philosophers absolutely despised them. Their genius argument was, if God punished your eyes to become blurry in your old age, wearing glasses to see clearly is literally cheating. It is an open rebellion against the will of the Creator. I swear, listening to this logic makes my brain melt. They literally called eyeglasses the devil's lenses because they bent the truth. People wearing them were isolated as witches using black magic to see invisible things. Peak systemic ignorance. Slicing into number 2, the potato. The literal crop that saved millions of Europeans from starving to death during when explorers first brought the potato over from South America in the 16th century. European peasants flat out refused to plant it. Their reason was deeply theological. This thing grows underground. It's lumpy, ugly, and most importantly, it is never mentioned in the Bible. Therefore, it must be the creation of the devil himself. Perfect logic. The French Medical Academy actually backed this up, banning potatoes because they claimed eating them caused leprosy, madness, and rotting organs. The panic was so intense that people literally preferred to eat dried grass rather than touch a single potato. Humanity would sometimes literally choose to starve stubbornly than survive with something new. And finally, sitting at the undisputed number 1 spot, the Wright brothers airplane in 1903. Right before the first plane took off, scientists and journalists worldwide swore that human flight was a massive scam. Top physics professors in America even published full mathematical papers proving it. They confidently stated, any machine heavier than air is physically impossible to ever achieve flight. Even after the Wright brothers successfully flew their plane in front of actual witnesses, the prestigious New York Times literally ignored it and refused to publish the story. They dismissed it as a cheap hoax staged by 2 random bicycle mechanics who had nothing better to do. Because the public's logic back then was, if God wanted humans to fly, he would have given us wings. Classic. From stoning umbrellas to cursing airplanes, human history is just one giant, ironic comedy show fueled by pure fear. In reality, we don't actually fear new inventions. What we truly fear is the collapse of our comfortable old habits and the terrifying reality of emptying the plastic bags of biases inside our own heads. So, out of these 10 historically roasted inventions, which one made you lose the most brain cells? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to absolutely smash that like button and subscribe to join the club. As for me, I'm gonna go grab my immoral bicycle and ride down the street to ruin some family values. Catch you in the next one. Bye, brothers.